Hello, everyone. It's Darko 2012 here with Global Government News, and I'm reading an article, or I'm going to cover three articles on web censorship. We've had a lot going on with the BP stuff and all the other immigration in Kyrgyzstan now, but this is another thing that just continues uh, to be a problem, to be an issue with people who are on the internet and who are trying to not have their words or their information censored or filtered or whatever. I think most of us that have been on YouTube kind of know what I'm talking about. They have little subtle ways to make it harder for people to speak freely and speak their mind. So, today is June 17th, 2010, and I'm reading this article titled First China, Next the Great Firewall of Australia. And this is from yesterday, June 16th, 2010. And yes, it's not really a big surprise. I mean, Australia has been under the web censorship, internet censorship for a while now. It's not, of course, it's not as bad as China, but they definitely have been talking about it and trying to implement it, and in some ways, in some parts, some degree, have already in Australia. So yeah, China is the template for the rest of the free world, and Australia, which is much like England, which is America is becoming a lot more European. I don't like it, but it is, right? Uh, so the next thing would be it would be Australia, kind of like a trickle effect where it goes like Chinese style internet will be the standard, the global standard. So, but let's move on to the article. Says the concept of government-backed web censorship is usually associated with nations where human rights and freedom of speech are routinely curtailed. But if Canberra's plans for a mandatory internet filter go ahead, Australia may soon become the first Western democracy to join the ranks of Iran, China, and a handful of other nations where access to the internet is restricted by the state. Plans for a mandatory internet filter have been a long-term subject of controversy since they were first introduced by Stephen Conroy, the Minister for Broadband Communications, in May of 2008 as part of a $106 million cybersafety plan. And it's always in the name of cybersafety. Um, that's kind of that's the rhetoric that you always hear on behalf of uh, usually governments. Sometimes you have the actual companies, the internet providers that say that. But yeah, I mean, as far as coming out with like the Cybersecurity Act, the bill and that, and creating a kind of a cyber safety czar, under the Obama administration for cyber war, as they're calling it. Yeah, that's their new term for hampering free speech is cyber safety. So, and usually here you look right here, it says the plan's stated purpose is to protect children when they go online by preventing them from stumbling on illegal material like child pornography. Um, which is kind of ridiculous when you think about it, because it's like, why would children be stumbling onto child pornography? That doesn't really make sense to me. Um, but that's besides the point. The point is that they use things like, hackers or Trojan horses or viruses and child porn. They use all these things that, are not good and people tried to avoid, but they use those as ways to introduce new legislation that will further, it'll take away more of your freedom to speak your mind. So that's how they usually get it passed, to scare the people. It says the government won't reveal an official list of URLs on the current blacklist, but Conroy's office says it includes sex sites containing child sexual abuse, bestiality, sexual violence. Yeah, I remember reading this article, the same thing a while back. Violence or drug use, material that advocates. Yeah, see, here you go. Or material that advocates the doing of a terrorist act. See, they slipped that in there at the end because that's really what it's all about. It's all about getting people that are on the internet, that are blogging or doing whatever, and calling out the insanity of all of this global government and police state and spying and the war on terrorism, the war on liberty and sovereignty. And so yeah, if you talk about that, then you're a terrorist, right? So then that makes sense that they would say, oh yeah, and material that advocates the doing of a terrorist attack, right? So said, but the most high-profile criticisms of the filter has so far been from net giants Google and Yahoo. In March, Google wrote to the Australian government with concerns that the scope of the filter was too wide. The search engine would also warn that it may slow down search speed. Filtering may give a false sense of security to parents. It could damage Australia's international reputation and can be easily circumvented, the company told them. And so you can check out that article by visiting the link that I will be posting. I usually post the links in the upper right-hand corner of the video, so check that out. This next article, the second one, is from EurasiaReview.com, and this was posted June 10th, 2010. It's titled Warnings That China's Web Censorship Could Spread. So just read a couple things here, and then we'll move on to the last article. It says China has announced its internet policy, releasing an official white paper which both hails the space the web creates for citizens' voices and reaffirms Beijing's commitment to the Great Firewall of censorship. VOA's Kate Woodsome spoke with Geordie Guy, the vice chair of Internet Freedom Group Electronic Frontiers Australia, about how other governments are taking cues from Beijing. I guess this Geordie Guy says what China does now by releasing this white paper is it indicates how it's going to act and set a precedent for how other countries are going to act moving forward. Australia as a country is looking at moving forward with its own internet censorship system, and in the last few weeks we've seen South Africa say that they're looking at implementing an internet censorship system using Australia as our hallmark on where they go to start. So it's always concerning to us when we see a country that this is a way we want to control people online, because we know that it always has ramifications outside our own borders. And then she basically asked him about the child porn thing, and could it extend into people's freedom of information? Well, of course it can. And the guy basically sums that up, and he says, anytime this is used as a base excuse, which it always is, right? It always winds up exposed to a wider level of censorship down the track, because that's not really the goal. The goal of these telecommunication companies and the people that run them, not everybody, not the guy that hooks up the lines and stuff like that, but the internet is a very good tool to fight this global government, this New World Order, the eugenics agenda, the feudalist agenda, all of this stuff. And I kind of think that the elites kind of regret providing the internet to the slaves, because it's kind of backfired on them a little bit, and they're just trying to get it under control. And so they'll use any excuse, and like I said, they'll use the child porn thing every single time, because like everything else with like DUI checkpoints, you can say, oh, you're not for drunk driving, are you? No, I'm against warrantless or unconstitutional checkpoints. And so that's how they get you with this. With the internet censorship, is they say, oh, you're not for child pornography, are you? And be like, well, no, I'm not for that. I mean, it's bad and stuff, but I don't think that it's going to really solve the issue. It's not going to solve the problem. I think parents should teach their children to be more responsible, or do whatever they can do to provide their own, quote, censorship or oversight. But don't pass a law where every swinging dick out there has to lose their freedoms online to try to quell a problem. Because I don't think it's going to really fix a problem. I think it's just going to end up, making us more like China. And lastly, we have this article from Infowars.com. I recommend you to check it out because I've run out of time. But it says calls increase for government to regulate internet journalists and bloggers. Yes, I have heard about this, but it's up in Michigan. Introducing legislation that will regulate reporters as much as state regulates hairdressers, mechanics, and plumbers. So there you go. People like me would be, it'd be illegal to do this, or I'd have to get a license to do it. So thank you, everybody.